Accountability, the fact or condition of being accountable, responsibility. People love to deflect blame for themselves onto other people. The greatest misconception is that avoiding accountability will lead to happiness, when in reality, the reverse is. It's my boss's fault I'm not getting paid enough. Sally messed up my project. That's on Rick for not communicating. The market collapsed the day before our launch. Well, if the client hadn't made these demands, when you blame others, you're admitting to yourself that you're no longer in control. You give leverage to the persons you are pointing your finger at, and you become a victim of the situation you're in. Instead of pointing a finger, consider pointing a thumb back at yourself. I need to ask my boss for a raise or get a new job. I have to set better framework to Sally with Sally in the future. I need to set up a quick check-in meeting with Rick. If I hadn't been looking for the gold rush or I had moved quicker during the gold rush, this wouldn't have happened. If I'd been more upfront with the client, I wouldn't be in this situation. I think of accountability as brakes. It stops the momentum of pain and comes from blaming others. It stops I think accountability as brakes. It stops the momentum of pain that comes from blaming others. If your business partner screws you and you go in the dark spiral of blame, accountability gets you out of it. If you listen to two people arguing, you'll notice the entire conversational flow changes the second someone steps forward and becomes accountable. No matter what challenge I'm facing, I have to accept that in some way I made a decision that put me in that situation. Even if the decision I made was to ignore the situation until this moment, I need to hold myself accountable for that too. It gives me a great calm and comfort to feel that every issue of my life is 100% my fault. It excites me to know that nobody else is in control. If I created the issue, then I have the power to fix it. If I didn't create the issue and it's bigger than me or purely circumstantial, I can still decide how I absorb it. Accountability is the most challenging ingredient for most people because their self esteem is predicted on the outcomes of their actions. It's hard to take blame when you're not kind to yourself or optimistic about the future. Taking it leaves you completely vulnerable to other people's judgment. People fear others' opinions, so they develop an ego defense mechanism against their own mistakes. It's a form of avoidance disguised as a solution. I cheer for people who show my admir- I cheer for people. I show my admiration for them. However, I don't think others are better than me. I also think I also don't think I'm better than them. When you don't overvalue your own opinion, it's easier to not overvalue the opinions of others. It frees you to be accountable. It's easy to tell the world it's my fault because there's nothing anybody can say about me that can affect my self esteem. You might be able to trick certain people by deflecting accountability, but you can't trick those with stronger emotional intelligence than you. People who have a high EQ are typically the most liked and most successful. And it really sucks if you can't win with that group. To them, it's obvious when you're passing blame. Unfortunately, many people would rather live their lives tricking other emotional weak players. They'd rather win those with those who are ego driven and fear based. All right, so this is a page, pages from a book that I'm currently reading called 12 and a Half. 12 and a Half is by Gary Vaynerchuk, known in the social world as Gary V. I've read this book once and I'm going back through it again and sharing it here in the community. So the way the book is written, there's 13 chapters on different emotional ingredients like accountability. There's empathy, there's, let me just go through it with you. Gratitude, self-awareness, accountability, optimism, empathy, kindness, tenacity, curiosity, patience, conviction, humility, ambition. And then it gives a chapter of real life scenarios and then have some exercises to work through it to become better. And if you're not familiar with Gary V, check him out. I've been part of Gary V's community for almost 15 years now, and he puts out a lot of business content that's valuable that we can take right to work that day. But this is really, he's making a shift with, how business can be approached. It's not always, it used to be, nice guys finish last, but that's a big shift that's happening. And the truth is, nice guys finish, bad guys finish, everybody finishes. It's just a matter of how you feel about it, right? When it comes to accountability, I was just writing about it this morning. Let me share a little bit about what I wrote, because it's been an issue that I've struggled with most of my adult life when it comes to staying accountable to myself, and sometimes with appointments that I set up, that sort of thing. And I was doing some reflection back to when I was a kid, and every Sunday morning, my dad, Danny, he would put us to work. We would be in the backyard, pulling weeds, doing yard work. And I remember at the age of 7 or 8, when I started to make up excuses to not do the yard work. I was basically calling in sick to my dad, who was just trying to teach us to be better humans and stay accountable, which would in turn help us be accountable in the real world. But again, I remember at like 7 or 8 years old, I began to make up excuses to not to go do the Sunday yard work. So part of this process in recovery is more than just staying stopped drinking, right? So I get to do things like work on being more accountable, which will help me be a better human, which will help me make better decisions to stay away from my old behaviors of an all day, everyday alcoholic drinker. So thank you for being here. If you guys are watching this video, that means I either came up in your feed or the algorithm connected us. Hit that like button, hit the subscribe button. Currently, I have 390 of you subscribed to the channel. Thank you. There are some links that will take you to the Freedom Seekers community, where you can learn more about different courses and workshops and events that we're putting together. There's also links to the Patreon, to the Facebook, to the Discord server. If you would like to be on the podcast, I've currently interviewed 4 guests and we're doing production on those episodes now. I'm going to provide a link to where if you want to sign up to do an interview with me to potentially be a guest on the podcast, use the link. If you're looking to make some changes and just want somebody to talk to, a friend, a guide, I can work with you on that. I've put together some courses to help others who might be struggling with drinking still. I have a friend, he's a firefighter, and over the last couple of months, we've been working together. He came to me in a real dark state of depression last year. Again, he's a firefighter here in California, and he's been dealing with a lot when it comes to his work and his family. And it's nice because we've been able to meet and talk, and I get to listen, and he's making a lot of progress. He's beginning to play music again. He has not gone back to his old ways of addiction, which is a beautiful thing. And so where my experience and expertise is when it comes to recovery is I've been there. Okay. There were times in my life where I could not stop drinking even if I wanted to. There were times where I was homeless because of not being able to make a living due to drinking, and all I wanted to do was keep drinking. I haven't drank in over 1,300 days. On Saturday, this Saturday, I'll have an actual human birthday. But the important part is I get to live on a daily basis. I get to work on things like becoming more accountable to myself and others. I get to work on a couple of projects that are becoming more real. We're working with a couple of local sober living and transitional living operators, and me and a couple of partners are putting together plans to acquire properties to provide resources to these sober living operators. So if you're in the recovery community, whether you're in California or other parts of the country, and you want to learn more about what we're doing at On to the Next Door, there's a link on the channel notes as well. Thank you for being here, and have a great Wednesday.